Hello everyone, I am Sightless Combat and welcome to a God of War Ragnarok video with a twist. What is the twist, you ask? This is a series of fights that a while ago I asked if you just wanted to see raw footage of, or if you wanted to see small intermissions from me in between, explaining roughly how the fights worked out for me and how I completed them. With your responses being overwhelmingly in favour of said intermissions, I've put this together and this is kind of an experiment, so if you have any comments, suggestions, feedback, etc. to leave for me as to how to improve these in future, should I decide to do any more, then do feel free to let me know. For those that don't know me, I'm an accessibility consultant and gamer without sight, having absolutely no sight whatsoever, and God of War Ragnarok is one of my favourite games from 2022. After all, I very much like punching things in the face, swinging an axe and flinging chain blades at pretty much anything that gets in my way, at least in a virtual sense. Partly because it's fun and partly because I enjoy the combat challenge, even when scaled up to give me God of War, the game's hardest difficulty, which I decided against my better judgment to play through with as minimal sighted assistance as possible. Why I did this? Well, why not was kind of my logic, and if you want to hear a little more about my journey through the God of War franchise, you can find that as part of my AxeCon presentation linked in the description. In terms of what you're about to see though, the footage was captured directly on PS5 and I've stripped everything back just to the singular final attempt that ended in success. So no massive death montages here. If you do want to see one of those though, honestly coming along to one of my streams where I play Give Me God of War might be a better option, because then you get all the hilarity that ensues and the commentary as well, and get to ask a question or several on a live first-hand basis. I will preface this video with a warning. The footage you will see does contain spoilers for the main quest line, so if you haven't finished the game yet, or at least played past the quest called The Word of Fate, I would highly encourage you to do so. Now I've rambled on long enough for this intro, so let's get into it and dive into some footage and fights from God of War Ragnarok. Ogres are like onions. They have layers. Wait, wrong franchise. Yes, ogres are in God of War, and they have been at least since 2018 as well. And the trouble is, they are big, they are powerful, and they are kind of frustrating at times if they do one of those AoE attacks, area of effect ones, that you just can't dodge out of the way of. The problem is when you add lots of smaller enemies into the mix, namely the Reavers, and I was stuck on the fight you're about to see for a while. Yes, it took me ages. And how did I get through it? Quite simply, just by sheer luck, really. There's no other way to say it. Though I did think about turning back and getting extra loot and gear and upgrades and things. Even if I did, that doesn't necessarily mean it would help me get through the fight. Partly because the biggest enemy was not the enemies, but target prioritization. So essentially, whether the game decides to let me hit the large enemy or the small ones. The idea, of course, being that you want to hit the small ones, take those out, and then just have the ogre left. Which is what actually happened on the run you're about to see. I also then used stereo audio when the ogre was in stun and generated lots of other smaller enemies to try and squish those as best I could, and for the most part it worked. I even tried fishing for the final enemy, and you'll see fishing later, with its overly aggressive nature, meaning that I could hit it in the face with a runic, so it was very useful that I had that available to me at the time. Here is the first fight of the video, the Ogre and Reaver battle.
Incoming fire! Behind you! Look out!
Press light attack button or heavy attack button to attack.
Next we come to the cheesy whip battle. Why do I call it the cheesy whip battle? Partly because with so many projectiles on screen, I realised that finally the radiant warden handles could come in useful. They allow me to fling all these annoyances back at their senders, thus arguably trivialising a fight that could really be a problem if you took it on too aggressively, as I tried to at least twice. Being able to hear all the attacks coming in was certainly useful, as then it meant that I could have my sort of projectile shield, if you will, up in the form of whiplash, just to start chucking everything back at where it came from. In comparison to the last fight though, this was very much a more straightforward process, at least once I'd figured out the strategy. So here it is, Kratos basically becoming a projectile parrying god without really doing much.
More of your friends.
I didn't tell them to be here.
Fire from above!
Heavy enemies, or sometimes as people might call them, big boys. Very problematic if they're in close quarters and you have to dodge and you don't necessarily have the space to do it, or you get caught on geometry. In this instance though, it wasn't too bad because I knew the heavy was present, at least after a while of him beating my head in, and sometimes the best strategy is just to hit an enemy as hard as you can with everything you've got. Using range did actually prove helpful as well, since by the time the heavy got to me, I was able to stun him pretty significantly and end his reign of terror, at least until the next heavy came along in future fights. That being said, the correctly queued unblockable attacks definitely helped, as then I knew exactly when to dodge even in confined spaces. So here's an example of me taking on a heavy and a bunch of his comrades, all while realising comparatively this isn't that stressful as long as you're quick on your feet. Travelers, basically Heavy 2.0. Those of you that have played God of War 2018 will be very familiar with these, and if you don't know they're coming, they can be a real problem, partly because they also have attacks that can one-shot you if you're very, very unlucky to be within their sort of firing range, if you will. It's all about being ready for those attacks to come in and being ready to dodge out of the way. And also the blades helped me here after a few runs of trying to use the axe, because then I had the range, the speed, and the ability to stay relatively light on my feet. This fight may look easy, but believe me, this did still take me a few attempts, as this is the hardest difficulty in the entire game.
Kratos, Ghost of Sparta, Bane of Olympus, Destroyer of Fate, Cruel Striker, Bringer of War, Weapon of the Gods, against his creators. He chases a redemption he knows he can never deserve. He cannot change.
Man.
Elves. These are annoying. Why? Because they fly and they're fast moving. That being said, if you manage to pin one in a corner, as I did, and just constantly hit it, it usually dies relatively quickly. It's when you get to certain fights later on, or in other areas of the game, where elves start flinging out giant orbs in vast areas, that you have to start worrying. Thankfully, these ones don't bother doing that. Of course, that's not to mention the very useful unblockable dodge queue that keeps cropping up in these fights and keeps saving me from certain death on numerous occasions. Revenants. No, it's nothing to do with that movie about a bear. What it is to do with, though, is another fast-moving enemy that can attack from range. It's mostly just a matter of keeping your shield up and being aware of when she's yelling at you. I think I even managed to get a stun grab on this one, which is comparatively rare, so enjoy that while it lasts.
Mimir of the AC.
Here we go.
Counselor to Kings. Merry Wanderer of the Woods. Robin of the Goodfellows.
Let me guess. I'm a long-winded know-it-all and I cannot change? See? You forgot smartest man alive!
Have you got a boss that you need to hit weak points for? That's tough, arguably. Have you got a boss that you need to hit weak points for when the target assist won't actually let you lock onto those weak points because they're not part of combat? Even tougher. Have you got a boss where this is multiple phases and on the hardest difficulty? Yeah, the odds eventually kind of get stacked against you for this one. Until you realize, like I did, that you can stand back, utilize range, and keep hitting it, then you don't close in unless you feel you can definitely make it happen. As much as I knew that I could dodge the attacks from the first phase, it was when it went into its second that things started to get rather dicey. So I then realized that standing back, flinging my axe into it repeatedly, and getting my companion to shoot arrows at it was probably the best port of call. Once again, this fight took me hours, if not days, but it was so worth it when I actually managed to do it.
What is that?
A phantom! Rogue magic!
Hit the Phantom's port to build stun. Strike when the rune is glowing to stagger in.
The Alpha!
Close in! Attack!
The Alpha!
Close in! Attack!
The Alpha!
Attack!
The Alpha!
The core first, then the spine.
Kratos, the springs! Bring them down! The Alpha!
Nicely done. Keep on it.
The Alpha!
Close in! Attack!
The Alpha!
Need to take out those springs, brother!
Well done! Just a few more strikes!
Finally, we come to the Einherjar Gauntlet. Remember I mentioned fishing earlier? I never really explained what it was, and you might have seen it used throughout a couple of the other fights as well. What it is aiming with the blades and using the ranged grapple to either pull yourself into an enemy or pull an enemy into you. That actually can stun enemies around the one you attack, thus meaning that you can negate various elements of their battle strategy. So if you aim for the enemy that's going to come in and attack you, even if it's pulling a regular attack, which thankfully these ones have telegraphed through audio, whereas a lot of enemies don't, so you just have to keep your shield up. Where these are telegraphed through audio, you aim for the one that you want to get and hope that the game decides to lock onto it. Once you've pulled it in though, it's then a matter of figuring out where the next threat is. So it's really pull, look, and keep going. Of course, we're doing this all via an essentially free camera in terms of left and right at the very least, and hoping that the lock-on works properly, which it does. And even though this took a while and a lot of dodging, it was actually quite fun in the end, and a very big relief when I did manage to get through it. So here is the final fight of the video. Kratos goes fishing for Einherjar.
Brother, help me! Monster!
Atreus, I am coming!
Why didn't you trust your own son? Don't let him take me!
Atreus!
I'm scared! Why wouldn't you see him the way he wants to be seen? That's all I had to do. Now he's mine. He's killing his own family.
Atreus, I am here!
I'm not safe with him!
Well, that was exciting, wasn't it? Absolute chaos and very much edge of your seat stuff. Because I knew if I got hit by one of those attacks, it would spell instant death, or at least very close to it. I really hope you enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun putting this together. It was a very interesting experiment for me because I've not tried to interlace commentary intermissions before, at least not in this fashion. But with that being said, if you do want to see more from me like this, do feel free to let me know what you'd like to see, and I will see what I can do about getting it together. If you want to come and watch me on stream, do find all the links and things down in the description as to where you can find me, including as well the links to my Twitter and my Discord server. I really hope this has been insightful watching this gameplay. If it has, please also feel free to leave a comment and let me know what you think. And if you really want a challenge, why don't you try taking on the game yourself with your eyes closed and getting as little assistance as possible to fight the enemies, navigate the environment, and potentially even do the puzzles if you're feeling like putting yourself through that. But in any case, I've been Sightless Combat. Have a great rest of your day, whatever time it is in your part of the world, whatever time it is where you are. Stay safe, take care, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Thank you very much for watching, and please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe.